Inside my scene I have three different surfaces. One, I have a NURB primitive sphere. I have a subdivisional sphere in the middle, and I have a polygon sphere on the right. Now, these are all very different in the sense that some of them have very soft modification to them, like the NURB primitive sphere, and of course the subdivisional sphere, where the polygon has a very faceted modification to it. So let me undo all of those little changes that I've done. Now, what I'd like to talk about in this quick tutorial is converting between these surfaces. Very often we might start modeling something out as a NURB. Often I use curves to do revolves and lofts to model things as a NURB, and then we'll convert that over to a sub-D and then over to a polygon. Now the reason I convert NURBs to sub-Ds before I convert them to polygons is because when you do that you'll get a little bit better of a conversion, and your tessellation and your mesh on the polygon will be a little bit cleaner. So let's first discuss converting NURBs all the way down to polygons. If I select this NURB sphere and go up to modify and scrub down to convert, you notice I do have the option to switch NURBs over to polygons. But I do recommend in most cases going actually not from NURBs over to polygons, but from NURBs over to subdivisional surfaces. So now this is a subdivisional sphere. I'll hit the number 3 to smooth that out. And then I'm going to do a modify, convert, subdivision over to polygon. And now we have a polygon sphere created from a NURB primitive sphere. So that's just a little kind of jump step that you want to do when you're going from NURBs over to polygons. Let's now talk about sub-Ds and how to convert those over to NURBs. Now sub-D kind of being the child of a polygon and NURB, it kind of shares a little bit of the attributes of the NURBs and a little bit of the attributes of the polygons. So converting to polygons usually isn't a problem, and converting to NURBs usually isn't a problem. So we can do a modify convert sub-Ds over to polygons, and we get a good result. And I'll actually undo that. And then I'm going to do a modify convert sub-Ds over to NURBs, and then we'll get a clean result as well. So I'm going to undo that so we're back to our our sub-D state. Now, one thing I'd like to talk about when converting from subdivisional surfaces over to polygon surfaces is something in the option box. So I'll go up to modify, scroll down to convert, over to subdivisions to polygons, and this time I'm going to go to the option box. Now in the option box you're going to notice that I have this option here that says adaptive or vertices. Right now it's set to adaptive, so if I hit apply, it's going to try and maintain the shape best that it can based on the subdivisional surface. If I select vertices, so let me undo this, it'll maintain the same vertice count. So let me hit apply here. So you'll notice a subdivisional sphere is actually almost the same as a polygon cube. I know that might get a little bit confusing, but let me do that one more time so we can explain why we'll use adapted versus vertices, and why we'd use vertices versus adaptive. Again, I'm going to undo this, and we're back to our subdivisional sphere. And I'm going to leave this set to adaptive, which by default when you install Maya and get it running, it will be adaptive. So if you haven't done any of these operations before, it's likely that you have it set to adaptive. So now you're going to convert your sub-D over to a polygon, and then I'll hit apply. And let's say you'll do some modeling work on this new polygon. And now I want to convert this back over to a subdivision. So I'll do a modify, convert, polygon to subdivision. I'll hit 3 to smooth that out. So then we might make some changes in its sub-D state. Again, we'll jump back and forth because sometimes it's good to work as a sub-D for this soft transformation. And then we'll convert this back. So again, modify, convert, sub-D back to polygon. Remember, we have this set to adaptive now. So you'll notice what's happening. It's trying to maintain the shape of the way we had it when it was sub-D. So if I now do some changes here, again, I have a much more subdivided model, which isn't what I wanted. I wanted to be able to go back to the low poly state easily to make some quick changes. And then again, I will convert this. Modify, convert, polygons over to subdivisions, hit the number 3 to smooth that out, and then I'll make some more soft changes here. So maybe we'll just pull this out and then scale it up. And then we'll convert this one more time. Modify, convert, subdivisions over to polygons. Again, it is still set to adaptive. So every time I do this, you notice that my polygon model is becoming denser and denser, and that is not a good idea. Very often in many of the tutorials that you might watch from 3D Trainer, we're going to be working on a low-res poly model. And the reason we do that is it's very easy to work with polygons, and we also want to work with low-res because that too is very easy. But then we'll often convert it over to a subdivisional surface to smooth it out, or be able to work with some of the soft modification of subdivisional vertices. But if we keep switching back and forth and we leave it set to adaptive, we're going to get this problem where we keep dividing our model and turning the poly count up and making the resolution much more dense, and we don't want that. So the one tip when we were converting from polygons over to sub-Ds was in the option box, sub-Ds to polygons, is don't keep this to adaptive unless you know that you're just going to leave it at that final state. Make sure you set it to vertices. So I hope that was clear. Again, why we do this and why we move back and forth between these surfaces and these different types will become much more clear in later tutorials, but for right now I just wanted to show you the conversion process. And finally, we're back over to our polygons, which is exactly what we were doing over here with the sub-D. Let's convert this to a NURB surface. So we can do modify, convert, and we can do polygons to sub-Ds. Notice we don't have any polygons to NURBs, so we do have to do that initial jump step. So we'll do polygons to sub-Ds, and then now that this is a subdivisional surface, I'm going to do a modify, convert, sub-Ds over to NURBs. And again, this process has caused a much denser model, and if we were to convert this back, it would be much more dense. But all in all, a pretty simple process to convert between these 3 different surface types.